Hey, and welcome back. Tonight's call is all about fat loss, weight loss, and the scales and understanding the bigger picture. So, again, when we're thinking about the scales, there can be this like fixation of why is it not moving? And I know that so many of you girls have joined the program, or maybe even if you're listening to this, you've started your fitness journey or you're continuing on with it and you're looking at various different new methods because you are fixated on scales. And what we do know is scales can be a really good guidance in terms of where we are. But we're going to talk about why what the difference is between fat loss, weight loss, and also talk a little bit about the scales as well here. So the aim for us is to allow you to detach emotionally from the scale and focus on body recomposition and trust the process of sustainable fat loss. And you might think again, well, I just want weight loss. Okay. So firstly, what you need to realize is the scale is not the full story. How many of you have ever stepped on the scale and felt frustrated, even when you've been doing everything right, and the scale, again, the scale does not tell you if you are getting leaner, stronger, or even healthier. And what I want you to remember is that the scale is just one data point. But we've all been there, right? So if we have a look at, the frustration with picking this, looking at only the scales, well, it's no wonder because, again, you're just focusing on that. And whereas we've got this other individual on the right here that's looking at scales, at body tape metrics, at clothes in terms of feeling, and also photos as well. Okay, so what is the difference between fat loss and weight loss? Well, firstly, fat loss is a reduction in body fat. I think we can all agree that that's the thing that we're trying to shift or trying to move. So it's a reduction in body fat percentage whilst preserving or building muscle. Now, weight loss, unfortunately, it's not always where we want it to go, but it's a mixture of muscle, water, glycogen, and very often undigested food. And yeah, maybe some fat loss as well, which is a positive. So I think it's really trying to understand the methods that we apply to fat loss and how we try and create more of a fat loss, a dominance of losing fat as opposed to losing everything else. So if you're only looking at calories and you don't consider your macronutrient balance, this is where you are going to run the risk of losing your muscle mass and everything else instead of just your fat. So studies actually show that preserving muscle mass through resistance training and also having adequate protein intake leads to better long-term fat loss outcomes. So just a few key points to look at there. And then when we're thinking about why the scale itself fluctuates and why we need to stop panicking over these small changes. So even if you are losing fat mass, you are losing weight, but the weight that you're losing is fat mass, aka fat loss, your weight, your total weight can still fluctuate by 1 to 3 kilos due to many different reasons. So you'll often hear me and I'll explain water retention. Well, water retention can be, again, it's water within your body. Your body's holding on to water. The reason why this might happen is high salt. So if you've had salt, salt actually helps you hold on to water. Um, stress, stress as well can create water retention and also other things to do with your hormonal cycle as well. And then coming on to glycogen storage. So, what this means is when you're having carbs, for example, you're holding more muscle, more water in the muscle. So when we're thinking about consuming carbs, for every 1 gram of carb, we hold 3 to 4 grams of water. So that will already tell you enough in itself. And it's not to say that carbs are bad. Like, why would it be wrong for you to hold more water in your muscle, right? And what that's going to do is obviously allow you to perform better and to have that fuller look as well when it comes to toning as well. And then this is often overlooked, but inflammation from training, you kind of think, oh, I've been killing it hard in the gym. I'm lifting really heavy. I'm pushing so hard. Well, you're drinking loads of water and you're doing really well and ticking all those boxes. Well, actually, in order to help muscle repair, it's going to hold on to that water again. So there is an inflammatory response from training. There needs to be in order for our muscles to get more toned, to recruit more muscle fibers, for us to be stronger. There is going to be an element of, an inflammatory response. And then obviously, as we know, for us menstruating women, our menstrual cycle changes as well. So again, some women might hold or gain up to 2 to 3 kilos before their period. That sounds like a huge amount. But again, I know that even for myself, I will become quite bloated, but it's fine. And I accept that there are changes throughout the month. That, again, this is what we all need to kind of work through and understand as well. And then, of course, bowel movements and digestion. So, if you're constipated, no shit, Sherlock. Constipation can cause higher weight gain. So if you're not going to the loo and you're constipated, you're backed up, you're literally holding on to weight. Yeah. Another point with that again is, why we why we consider things like fiber and why it's so important to have fiber as well, because it's going to help you with having healthy bowel movements as well. But also you need to make sure that your water matches that. It's just a balancing of all things, right? So if the scale does stay the same, it does not mean that you are not progressing. And I'll often say this again, you need to zoom out and we need to look at the trend over the course of like 4 weeks or more. Like not just looking purely at daily or weekly check-ins or weigh-ins. And sometimes I might actually get you to look at daily for a short period of time, because I want you to see the trend of how you change throughout the week. It doesn't mean that you've burnt more calories than another. It's just showing how your body responds to all these different things that are going on, all these different processes that are going on consistently. And then, of course, our weekly, we log those weights because we're looking at the trends over time. So again, just to kind of think about those things. So you might just say, well, do you know what? I want to just lose the weight. And you might go, I just want to lose the weight. And again, I've had these conversations with women in the past, like in my DMs and Instagram, and they're like, well, I just want to lose the weight first, and then I'll think about muscle. The issue with that is when you are losing weight really fast, you've got the potential consequences of muscle mass loss. Muscle is really vital. It's a vital organ. It's something that we need as we get older as well. It's so special because we actually start having a natural loss of muscle mass as we get older. So it's really important that we are not only building, but we're actually retaining that lean muscle mass. This isn't just so that we look great and gives us shape, but it's also going to help us in our old lady years as well. When you lose weight too fast and you start dropping everything, including muscle mass, you're going to have increased hunger and cravings. So the hormone ghrelin, which sounds a bit like gremlin, that's the angry one, that's going to make you feel more hunger. That's going to be higher. And then you've also got this higher risk of sort of binge eating cycles. I did see something a while back where, again, they looked at a study where they were looking at people who drop weight and how they kind of get to the point where they get so low in body weight that their natural response is literally to start this cycle of eating, right? They've lost muscle mass, so their hunger is affected, and also they're in a state of deprivation for so long as well. There is again some aspect of your metabolism slowing down, and this is called adaptive thermogenesis. So if we think about our our metabolism, our ability to kind of burn calories at rest or use energy, however we want to look at that, you know, when our intake drops massively, we start to like draw in and use less fidgeting movements, and we kind of want to move less, and we almost want to shut down as well. And it could be an aspect of your body having to, you'll often hear this, almost like trying to survive on lower calories. So there can be some aspect of adaptive thermogenesis. And for some of you ladies, this is why I might not always say it, but there's always that in the back of my mind that there might be periods during Christmas or maybe even your birthday, or there's a little bit of a diet break happening. This is again actually a good thing to happen every now and then. If we are really sort of on the ball with tracking, again, it can be something that we can strategically place within your months or alternate weeks, etc. There are so many ways of doing it, especially to help support things like the hunger increase during your menstrual cycle, or maybe if you find that there's certain periods where, do you know what, you're actually going on holiday, you're not going to go and eat everything, but you're going to eat healthful, and maybe there's a period of non-tracking that occurs because you are on holiday. Well, these also can be ways of almost like helping to increase your metabolism in some ways because you're giving yourself the opportunity to eat a little more, thus moving more as well. Okay. So again, if someone drops weight really fast and is not eating enough protein and they're not resistance training, they might be losing their shape rather than actually toning up, because most of us want to be toned, right? That's being toned, and having your curves is really important as well. It's not to say, again, some people get really fast weight loss if they are in a very managed deficit, although it could be quite a large deficit. It can be managed where they are getting resistance training in and they are eating enough protein. But ultimately, if you're not doing those things, you're just going to become skinny fat. So, a study in 2017 in obesity found that losing weight too fast led to greater muscle loss and impacting long-term fat loss success. Potentially, there could be an element of yo-yoing here by losing and then not really knowing or understanding where the middle ground is. So, for some of you, when we do get to that point, there is an element of maintenance as well that we need to work through. So, resistance training and protein are non-negotiables. So obviously we know that muscle mass, it matters because more muscle means a higher higher metabolism. So you're burning more calories at rest. This is not a huge amount, but it's still, valid. It's going to improve your shape and definition. The weight on the scale might even stay the same, but your body looks more toned. And I've heard this time and time again from girls inside the program that actually we kind of get through this breakthrough with it. She goes, "Do you know what? I'm not actually losing weight, but I've noticed that my clothes are fitting better." So again, it's just testament that there's something going on behind the scenes that, again, you might not always be able to see. And because you can see numbers on a scale, maybe that's why you're looking or attached to that. So I really want you to try and take some perspective and just zoom out again. And being stronger means that you have more energy and ultimately more confidence as well. So when we're thinking about protein, we want to aim for between 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight. Government RDA is zero point 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight. And for some ladies, when you join on this program, you're not even reaching the zero point 0.8. So it's so important that we are maximizing this potential as much as possible. And for most of you, when we're talking about protein targets, we'll always kind of work towards the lower end first, just make it more feasible, more realistic. And then, yes, strength training 2 to 4 times per week, focusing on progressive overload. Some of us absolutely love working out like this, but I know that some of you don't because maybe you've come from a background where you're like, in order for exercise to feel like it's doing something, I need to be sweating buckets or like vastly out of breath, or I need to feel some sort of burn. That is not true. You can go and strength train 2 to 4 times a week, get in there, train, and not even need a shower afterwards. I promise you. And you will still be focusing on progressive overload and building muscle. So not everything is about sweating and burning. And then your daily movement. This is so important. I'll put this like right up there in, the sort of pyramid of, what's the importance. You need to move more. Most of us have desk jobs. We drive everywhere. We always take the easier option. We'll take lifts, not the stairs. It's so important because all of this stuff means that our sort of, increasing our steps and our NEAT, our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So that again, that ability to burn, the energy. These are going to help you maintain a calorie deficit without having to do any sort of massive restrictions. So again, just by moving more and fidgeting more and getting out and being active, jumping out your seat, getting up, standing up when you're having phone calls, it's so important in terms of creating those small little increments of energy expenditure throughout the course of a day. Okay. So, how to measure beyond the scales? So, we've talked about the scales. The scales are important because, yes, we do need to have them, but they don't equal your success. Okay. But they are a method. They're one of many different things that we need to look at. So, we have progress photos, and I get that it's can be mega annoying doing it every week, but as an absolute minimum, front, side, back every 2 to 4 weeks. And this is, you know, so important because you can't let months go by and go, I haven't seen a shift on the scales. I feel like I look exactly the same. I haven't measured anything, and tell me you've been doing everything and not seeing it. When we start seeing success, and when you've got someone else seeing that success in you as well and highlighting the things that are working and are changing, it actually drives us to do better. That's the start. That's the sort of stuff that helps consistency. When you're seeing these things happen and you're taking these metrics and you are feeling things, these are going to be the stuff, this is going to be the stuff that drives you forward to continue with consistency, with momentum, to feel motivated, to keep pushing harder as well. So body measurements, again, within the app, within resources, within technical support, I've got a video demonstration telling you how to do the body part measurements. And this will always look different on every one of us because we've all got different anatomy. So our points where we find, again, even where the hips are or your waist, it's going to be different on all of us because we've got different torso lengths and different hip widths as well. So it's really important that we kind of look at ourselves individually, but make a note, again, take a picture at the beginning and make sure that you're taking those measurements at the same place each week. And then a really big one is how your clothes fit. I think before anything else, before you even see in the mirror that you've changed, before you've even seen that, before others have even recognized, you'll feel it in yourself in the way that you feel in your clothing. Like if that isn't enough and the scales are staying the same, if that isn't enough to convince you that you are making changes. And then, of course, yes, looking at non-physical progress as well. So if you're lifting heavier or you can get more reps out, then you're making strength progress. If you find that your energy levels and your mood is improving, then you're winning as well. So yeah, again, if you're getting stronger, you're feeling better and you're seeing shape changes, but the scale isn't moving, you are still winning. So what's our action plan? Focusing on the long game. So if we think about a steady progress checklist, you want to follow the nutrition structure that we've set out for you. So we want balanced macros and we want to ensure that we're getting enough protein. So it will always be calories first, adhering to calories, filling your cup and making sure that you're getting protein, understanding that you are fulfilling your fiber needs as well, getting enough water, and hydration is massively important. Then we'll be looking at your fats. Your fats are super important as well. Fats are important for hormonal health. And then whatever's remaining is worked out and goes towards your carbs. But it works in that format. For some of you, it's an art, it's a practice. It takes time to get balance within all of that, especially it's easier if you plan your meals out in advance, but if you are tracking as you go, things are always going to be slightly off kilter there. And then sticking to your resistance training. So we are focusing on building the strength. It's super important. And then increasing our daily movement and our NEAT, which is our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So those small little actions are going to help you get those big results. And then we're tracking multiple progress points, not just the scale. And we're trusting the process because body recomposition takes time. And what I want you to do on the basis of this as well is actually set a goal, maybe a 3-month mindset goal. Although we're still going to track and look at our trends on our scale, we're not going to fixate on them. So that's the difference here. So I keep thinking it's February, but we're March the 3rd now. So March, April, June. So June's when summer's coming. So I want you to kind of think about, your approach and mentally how you feel about the scales and maybe even how you feel about all the other metrics and whether it's the non-physical as well and how that's affecting you. So I'm excited to show you an example. So here we have one of the girls inside Girl Boss Method. Now you can see on the left, you've got the date stamp on both pictures, and you've got the weight scales heavier on the right side, right? Now on the left, you can see that the fat distribution is a lot more around the lower abdominals and also around the obliques, the sides as well. And again, even with the shape of the legs as well, they're a little bit more fuller. But what I want you to see is that this lady's weight on the left and the date, bear in mind it's the 2nd of April, and then have a look on the right. So this is 18 days. This is like 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks, right? 2.5 weeks of progress within these pictures, but there are very visible changes. Now, if this client never took pictures, we would never see that change. And again, we could definitely now, knowing how we've gone through this slideshow as well, we know that we've had a look at all the other things that affect the water retention shows up as well. You can feel bloated as well. How all these different things marry up when they show. But if this client only looked at the scales, they would go, well, why am I putting on weight? What's going on? I've put on weight. It's 2.5 weeks. I've done everything you've told me. I just want to give up because I can't see the scale weight change. But visibly, if you have a look, you can see that there are huge differences, right? And again, if this was you and you're looking at yourself and your own pictures, maybe you wouldn't even see that because you take the picture, you send it in the app, and you go, "Oh, I look the same." But this is my job as your coach to actually look at these, and I am looking at these pictures when you do your check-ins to say, right, these are the changes. And so it's just to kind of highlight and to get you to kind of almost think about how important those little steps are week on week, looking at those areas and why it's important. And then when we zoom out, we come here. We zoom out and we go, wow, from when this client started to this point here, there's a clear 4 months. There's a 4 month difference. And now, again, if she never took pictures and we never took metrics and she only looked at the scales, she would feel massively disheartened and go, well, for all the hard work that I've done over those 4 months, all I've lost is, you do the maths. What's the maths on that? All I've lost is, a couple of kilos. All I've lost is 3.5 kilos over 4 months. Okay. And you might go, well, I wanted to get a 10 kilo weight loss. But you have a look here. There's been a shift in body composition. Has she gained muscle? Has she been, adhering to her diet as well? Has she been sticking with that nutrition? Has she been sticking and trusting the process to get this outcome? So this I just thought would be really interesting to kind of give you this example and just show you also that it's not just about the scales. It's zooming out and looking at the bigger picture over time. So yeah, there you have it. If I've not convinced you with those pictures and throughout this slideshow so far, but just to reiterate that fat loss is not just about weight loss and that body recomposition does matter. The scale is only one tool, but it's not the only measure of success. It's important because we can track trends. We can kind of see where you need to be in terms of, calorie or energy intake. We can have a look at all of those. We can have a look at how much, determine how much protein you need. Muscle retention equals better shape, right? Better metabolism and better health for the long term. So it's so important that we focus on the consistency over perfection. We are going to have those points where you feel like you've messed up and you want to throw in the towel. But I think it's just really important that we just focus on the consistency of all those things and it will happen. Thank you so much for listening. Send me a message once you've watched this video and we'll speak to you next time.